So this weekend is the last weekend of the U.S. Open tennis tournament. So I wanted to give you some interesting little tennis facts. A tennis ball weighs 2 ounces. A tennis ball sits on the strings during a stroke. A tennis ball sits on the strings approximately 5 thousandths of a second. The fastest serve was clocked at 156 miles an hour. Ivo Karlovic, if you're interested. Anyway, and a professional tennis player can generate up to 5,000 RPMs on a topspin forehand. 5,000 RPMs. Now, you're probably fascinated by all this, just like I was. And you're probably thinking, what has any of this have to do with the talk title, Imagine Love? Because actually to tennis players, love means nothing, right? It does, zero. Okay, never mind. Old tennis joke. Yeah, but what interested me was the fun tennis fact about how little the ball stays on the racket. How for that brief fraction of a second, 5 thousandths of a second, and yet it makes all the difference in the world for the speed of the serve. It makes all the difference in the world to the spin of the ball, and it makes all the difference in the world to the type of hit that gets struck. The smallest fraction of a second, and it has the greatest impact on the game. And that is what got me thinking about love. Because the smallest little willingness that we have in our hearts to open up, to know something better, to know a greater truth, to know a little bit more love, that smallest little willingness, like that 5 thousandths of a second, can heal the oldest wound in our heart. It can heal the most brokenheartedness of us. It can heal the most ancient wound or grudge that we carry, because that's how love works. The tiniest little crack in our own hard-heartedness can perform miracles. So imagine if the smallest little bit of love can heal the greatest hurts of our lives. Could you imagine what great love can do? Can you just imagine what great love can do? I think Mother Teresa has been credited with that saying that some of us do great things, but all of us can do small things with great love. I don't know if she actually said it or not, or it was just accredited to her, but it's a wonderful statement, and it's a wonderful affirmation. Not all of us do great things. Not all of us are country's leaders. Not all of us do those types of things, but we can all do small things with great love. So imagine great love. Imagine how we would show up different in the world if we came from great love all the time. You know, I know that we can all remember a time, or hopefully many times in our lives, when we have absolutely come from a place of total unconditional love, right? Think about that moment right now. Think about that time where you absolutely know you were just nothing but just oozing unconditional love. You know, and for some of us it might be, you know, sitting at the beach watching a sunset, or the birth of a child, or when you took your wedding vows, your marriage vows, I don't know, but we can bring to mind those events in our lives where we were just pure love, can't we? And wouldn't it be wonderful if we can do that all the time? Wouldn't it be wonderful if that was just our state of being all the time? We just resonate and reside in that place of unconditional love. So what keeps us from doing that, right? Ernest Holmes, in this thing called You, he said this. He said, "You are made perfect in the law when you enter into conscious communion with love. Love is the fulfillment of the law. That is, it is only through love that the law can fulfill itself in your experience, because love harmonizes everything and flows through everything." So clearly, this is the truth of us. You know, this is the truth of us. If we say God is love, then God created everything, then we must be love also. God is love, then love is the truth of us. It is the very beingness of life. So the only thing that we can do is we can smash it down. We can stifle it. The only thing that we can do is kind of choke it off at its source. We fail to express who we are because it is the truth of us. It is what is within us all the time. If we believe in core concept 1, and we say it all the time, God is all there is, if we believe God is love, then we are that. We are that. God is all there is. So we are some part of that life of God's. And if God is love, therefore we are love. We are love. And so we are the only ones that can keep that from expressing in the world. By holding it down, by building a wall around it, by trying to protect ourselves, we are the only ones that can stop that flow of love in and around our lives. William James said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes of mind. Each of us literally chooses, by his way of attending to things, what sort of universe he shall appear to himself to inhabit." By the changing of our minds, we change our world. Change our thinking, change our life. This theme just continues to run through for us. And we have to engage in that true nature of who we are. We need to engage in that, and we need to let it out. We need to take the reins off God. We need to stop protecting it and let it flow through us freely into the world to be our authentic nature, because our authentic nature is love. There's nothing else. It's just love. You know that story about the scorpion and the frog? The scorpion and the frog? Took me a moment. I've got scorpion stories all week this week. Anyway, the scorpion and the frog are standing on the bank of the river, and the scorpion had to get to the other side, and he asked the frog, "Can I sit on your back and you can swim me across?" And the frog goes, "Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. You'll sting me and then I'll die." And the scorpion said, No, I won't. I promise I won't do that." So he hops on his back. Frog takes him across the river. Get halfway through there, the scorpion stings the frog. So they're both dying, because now the frog's going to die, the scorpion's going to drown. And the frog said, "What did you do that for? You said that you wouldn't sting me if I took you across the river." And the scorpion said, "You knew what I was before I got on your back. You knew what I was. I have to be true to my own nature." Sad story, they all drown. But the other story I just heard recently was about the scorpion and the old man. And there was a little scorpion, and he was drowning in a pond of water. And there was an old man standing by the pond and a little boy with him. And the old man reached in to scoop the scorpion out so he wouldn't drown, and the scorpion bit him on the hand, and he dropped him back into the pond. And the little boy said, "What are you doing that for? Are you crazy? You're going to get sick. That's a terrible thing to do. Just let him drown." And the old man looked at the child and said, "It is the scorpion's nature to sting, and it is my nature to help." And he took a leaf off a tree and he held it into the pond, and the scorpion crawled out onto it. And that's what we're talking about, being true to our own nature. If we're going to change the world, we need to express what is within us. What is within us to give? What is within us to contribute? What is within us to show up in the world as? And we know that that's love. That's love. We show up being love all over the place. We cannot help but transform our little corner of the world. It has to happen. It's the healing itself. And it's so interesting because every morning we go to meditation, right? Everybody in the room meditates. I know this. I just know it. And we go to meditation, and every morning we are one with that universal power and energy and love, and we are that. And then what happens? We're sitting in meditation, and that noisy neighbor upstairs plays that god-awful music, and you just want to choke him. Right? It's just, that's exactly what happens to us. We're all peace and love, and then that starts. And we fall right off of it. Or it's 105 degrees in your family room because your air conditioner is broken. And that gets you, we think of all of these, or you have the bills coming into the house faster than the money is coming into the house. Does anybody have that experience? Has anybody ever had that experience? Okay, well, make sure you see Cindy May at the end of service, because she's got a fabulous class, Unexpected Income, and it works, right? It works. Things happen in the world of conditions, but we must be true to our own nature. We must be the love to bring to that situation. Instead of allowing the condition to cause us upset, we need to be the peace and the love and bring that into the situation. What was that quote? Ralph Steiner said, "If it depends on something other than myself, whether I get angry or not, I am not the master of myself. I have not yet found the ruler within myself. I must develop the faculty of letting the impressions of the outer world approach me only in the way I determine." That's what we're talking about. You know, getting off track every time something happens in the world of conditions is being at the effect of the world. And then that makes us victims. That makes us victims. Oh, I can't do this because that happened. I can't meditate because the children are making noise. Did anybody hear the children making noise? No, right? But even if you did, that's part of your spiritual practice. That's part of your practice. That's what you incorporate into it. We allow ourselves to be the love in the world, and what the conditions around us will change to reflect that. It depends on something other than myself, whether I should get angry or not. I am not the master of myself. I have not found the ruler. We are always at choice. No matter what happens in the world of conditions around us, we are always at choice. So who am I going to allow to run my life? Me or some outside circumstance? Who am I going to allow to pull my strings? Me or some outside influence? Who am I going to allow to set me off? Who's going to push my buttons? You know, we all have buttons, right? Sometimes they all get pushed at once. Okay, so here's our job. You have to, unwire those buttons. You have to disconnect them. That's our job. We have to dismantle the buttons so that when they do get pushed, what happens? A whole lot of nothing. A whole lot of nothing. We dismantle them one by one, and so the things that we used to get hooked by, we don't get hooked by anymore because we become the rulers of our own choice of what we will experience. Clarissa Pinkola Estes says, "Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach." And the most significant place within our reach is within ourselves. That's an excellent place to start. It is the most significant place to start. Because really, this is the primary teaching. What do they call that in Star Trek? The prime directive. This is the prime directive. Change our thinking, change our life. So it's about changing within first, and then the outside changes to reflect that, always. Change your thinking, change your life. Change your consciousness. What changes in the world reflect that. The world around us, the world of effect, the world of conditions, it will reflect the change of consciousness. It is the last link in the chain of manifestation. The stuff shows up in the physical world after we've done the mental work. Martha Beck wrote a column in Oprah magazine. Yeah, I know, I read Oprah magazine. Okay, so online. But she wrote this, and she had this little spiritual practice, and I love practical spirituality. And she said this, when we kind of get hooked by someone else's behavior or someone else's stuff, or they push our buttons or something, she said this, choose a subject. So let's do that right now. Think of a person that you love, about whom you feel some level of anxiety or sadness or anger. Okay? Someone in your circle, someone in your family, someone in your neighborhood, someone who's just being a real pain. And just bring them into mind. Now, you've already got that person, right? I mean, we all have that person. Okay, so you have that person in your mind. Now, think about this loved one and think about how they need to change or what they need to change so that you can feel better about the relationship. Okay, just one thing this person needs to change. And the sentence is, if, fill in the blank, the person's name, would only the behavior you wish to change in them, okay? So if Betty would only stop gossiping, I could feel blank. and then you could say at peace or happy or whatever it is you would feel about it, right? Now, you got the sentence? Okay, if blank would only change the behavior, I could feel, and then you fill in that greatest feeling that you would feel. Now, here's step 3. I love this one. Now, you scratch out the first clause of the sentence. Just get rid of the first clause, and all you are left with is, I could feel whatever that emotion is. Because really, honestly, that's the only thing that's in your control. It's the only thing that's in your control. So we just get rid of the whole thing. We can't control other people's behaviors. So how do you choose to feel about them? Ernest Holmes said this in the Science of Mind magazine. I love it. It's one of my favorite quotes of his. One of the first things to do is to love everybody. If you have not done this, begin to do so at once. It's just the greatest quote in the world. It is so simple. We have a very simple, practical teaching. Just love everybody, no exceptions. You know, when we are free from judging people, we are free to love them unconditionally. When we are the rulers of our own lives, we are not at the effect of anyone else's behavior. Nobody else's bad day can make your day bad. Nobody else's bad mood can affect your mood. When we are the rulers, when we are at choice of our own lives, we are not at the effect of our boss or our family member or the noisy neighbor with the bad music or any of that. When we are the rulers, we are at choice all the time. Erica Young said this. I love this quote too. She said, take your life in your own hands, and what happens? A terrible thing. No one to blame. No one to blame. So we come into our authenticity more and more. And what is our authentic self? What is our authentic self? It is the state of unconditional love. It has to be. Because we said that. That is the premise we begin with. God is all there is. God is love. Well, if God's all there is, then we are made of the same stuff of God, and God is love, then we are love. That's it. We're love. We're oozing love all the time. We just stop ourselves from doing it. So when we come into our state of authenticity, we are coming into our state of unconditional loving. It has been there all along. It's the truth of us. It's how we come into this world. We just are big bundles of unconditional love. Harry Emerson Fosdick said this. He said, bitterness imprisons life. Love releases it. Bitterness paralyzes life. Love empowers it. Bitterness sours life. Love sweetens it. Bitterness sickens life. Love heals it. Bitterness blinds life. Love anoints its eyes. Imagine, if you will, imagine the smallest willingness will allow our lives to transform. Imagine expressing unconditional love in every area of our lives. Imagine showing up in all of our authentic self as love and being true to our basic nature. Imagine loving everybody, like Ernest Holmes said, no exceptions. Imagine that kind of love, that fierce and great and healing love. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, when we let the love that is within us go out to the God who is in all people and the divine presence that is in all things, then we are loving God with all of our heart and with all of our soul and with all of our mind, because we are recognizing that the spirit within us is the same spirit that we meet in others. This is loving our neighbors as ourselves. Imagine love. Imagine that level of love. And then live it. Thank you so much.